What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Making Training Simple video. In the last video, we spoke about high versus low rep training and the effects it can have for hypertrophy growth. Today's video, I'll be talking about muscle protein synthesis. So if you don't know what muscle protein synthesis is, I'll explain it real quick. When we're working out and recovering, we are constantly in between stages of muscle protein breakdown and muscle protein synthesis. Muscle protein synthesis is our body's response to training in order to make it bigger and stronger. Muscle protein breakdown is the rate at which our body breaks down muscle proteins. So in order to get bigger, we want our muscle protein synthesis to outweigh our muscle protein breakdown. So when you have a higher muscle protein synthesis and a lower muscle protein breakdown, you get stronger. If it switches, then you are pretty much in a catabolic state. You are losing muscle. Now, with that being said, we want to understand what properly triggers muscle protein synthesis. So for muscle protein synthesis, there are two main factors. The first factor is going to be training. So resistance training with enough mechanical tension creates a upregulation of protein synthesis. This spike of protein synthesis lasts about 24 to 48 hours. Now, there is a threshold that you need to meet in order to properly trigger this muscle protein synthesis, and it's going to be around 6 to 8 sets for each muscle group that you're trying to target. If you go over 6 to 8 sets, you might be crossing into that realm of doing junk volume, where it's actually going to be fatiguing your muscle more, and you're not going to be able to recover properly for your next session, and you're just putting yourself in a recovery debt. The second driving factor for muscle protein synthesis is getting enough protein. So, studies show that 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is going to be ideal to be triggering this muscle protein synthesis. You also want to space it out throughout the day, so not cramming all of your protein in one meal, so around 3 to 5 meals, evenly distributing your protein in order to have it synthesized properly. Like I said before, these muscle protein synthesis spikes last from 24 to 48 hours. So, when you're creating your program, you want to create a program that allows you to hit muscle groups at least 2 times a week. Now, this doesn't mean that you can just create as many muscle protein synthesis spikes as you want. You can't be hitting every muscle group every single day. Hitting a muscle group while it's still in that 24 to 48 hour spike might not be doing you any good. In fact, it might actually be hurting you because, like I said before, doing too much volume too soon may be putting you into a recovery debt, and you're not going to be able to properly recover and build new muscle. Studies have shown that 2 to 3 sessions per week for each muscle group that you're trying to target is going to be beneficial for building muscle, but you're also not going to be crossing that threshold where you're going into recovery debt. Smaller muscle groups like your triceps or your biceps recover a lot faster, so it might be beneficial to hit these muscle groups 3 times a week instead of twice. Larger muscle groups like your quads, your back take a little bit longer to recover, so around 2 times a week should be ideal. Now, this is, of course, if you are starting out. Advanced lifters probably have a higher capacity for recovery and may need to add some more volume throughout the week, so it is going to be a case-by-case basis. There's no one-size-fits-all for this. Now, how does muscle protein synthesis affect the way that we create our programs? Well, for starters, we want to create as many meaningful muscle protein synthesis spikes throughout the week without creating junk volume and going into recovery debt. This is why something like a bro split that kind of crams all of your volume into one day may not be ideal, because 1, you're only having 1 muscle protein synthesis spike a week. 2, if you miss that day, you're not hitting that muscle group for the entire week. And 3, you're doing so much volume in one day, you're crossing into junk volume territory, and you're going to be fatiguing your muscles beyond their ability to recover. Some people might opt to do a push-pull legs or an Arnold split, which allows you to hit each muscle group at least twice a week, giving you those 2 spikes throughout the week. However, the only downside of this that I really experience is that it is a pretty big commitment to have to go to the gym at least 6 times a week. For those of you that can make that commitment and make sure that you get to the gym 6 times a week, by all means, go crazy. But for some people, it just doesn't fit into their schedule. Another split that is also very beneficial for hitting these muscle protein synthesis spikes is the full body every other day. The biggest downside for the full body every other day split is that you have to be very precise in your movement selection. If you're choosing to do isolation movements for your entire workout, you're going to be in the gym all day long, and you are going to be extremely fatigued by the end of the day. If you're doing compound movements, then a lot of the smaller muscles are going to give out before your larger muscles. So you're not going to be properly hitting your chest movement on a bench press because your triceps are going to be giving out before your chest. That's why I would recommend a split like upper lower. This allows you to hit each muscle group at least twice a week. You get your 2 muscle protein synthesis spikes, and it's also pretty enjoyable. You're not going to be in the gym all day. The only problem with this is that upper days can get very crowded because you have a lot of muscle groups when you're hitting upper. The way that I get around this is that I throw one of my muscle groups on my lower days so that my lower days get a little bit longer and my upper days get a little bit shorter. So they kind of even out there. And for those advanced lifters, you can add a 5th day on the upper lower split to specialize certain muscle groups, add more volume there. So I hope you guys understand what muscle protein synthesis is and how to properly optimize it. I hope I did a good job explaining. If you enjoyed it, like up and have a great day.